Well, that story leads us to this brief conversation following the release of the National Reparations Framework Report by the Kenyan National Commission on Human Rights, which was presented to President William Ruto at State House, Nairobi today. I'm joined by Hussein Khalid, who joins us from Mombasa County. He's a human rights activist and the executive director at Vocal Africa. Hussein, thanks for your time. Let's start with the sheer historical weight of this finalized June 2026 report. Given your years on the front lines in civil society and your interaction with some of the families affected by the police excesses and the unfortunate turn of events that happened during demonstrations, what exactly does this report symbolize? Is it a systemic shift towards state and government accountability?
Thank you, Jesse Rogers, of course, and KTN for this wonderful opportunity to share insights into this particular issue. And for us as Vocal Africa, and having worked with many of the victims and their families over the last 2 or so years, this is a step that has been taken, but it's a step that has a huge gap in it. And that huge gap is the question or the issue of justice. Yes, these families do need resources to be able to just make it, day by day. Most of them lost their breadwinners. Up to this point in time, they're truly suffering because of that loss. So this money coming in as much as it is paltry, it is nothing compared to what we propose together with the victims to the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights. But we're saying it is something that will keep them moving in the meantime. But having spoken to them in details over the last couple of years, they have not lost sight of their quest for justice and making sure that the perpetrators who are responsible for the killings are brought to book.
Yeah, and compensation without liability is definitely a sore issue that needs to be fixed. But talk to us about this issue, because according to the Commission, the verification of those victims was guided by the reasonable basis to believe standard, where they equally took a look at medical reports, police occurrence book records, witness statements, photograph and video evidence to actually support the claims. What do you make of that threshold that was used? Does it lock out unverified claims, or worse off, the legit claims that can't be verified, maybe due to lack of a police abstract or other issues?
Yes, that's a true challenge, and we also experienced it. You'll recall that during the 2024-2025 Gen Z protests, we raised funds through Hanifa, and we went around the country compensating victims, and we had claims that could not be verified. We had claims that were, completely not there, and people were just coming out wanting to be supported. So this is a true issue. This is something that is real and is concerning, and there must be a way of dealing with this particular concern. But what is more important is that these sessions, there was public participation, and people made their views known. And what we need to agree as a country is that what is the meaning of public participation if we don't take into account what the public then contributes as their opinions on that issue? Because in this particular concern, we brought in these families and we discussed, and truly we looked through all those recommendations, all the data that we had, all the pain and suffering that these people went through. We had lawyers. Our discussions were led by Professor Kivutha Kibwana, and we recommended certain amounts of money, which, looking at the report presently as presented, does not even reach near what the families recommended as the amounts to be given out as compensation. So this is a concern, but we will continue to engage with the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights so that they factor this in. But more importantly, we should not lose sight, as you said, the issue of liability, the issue of justice. We must keep pushing for it.
Now, the Commission stated clearly that without structural changes, this reparations program is just an ad hoc intervention, and they're calling for a brand new Reparations Act and a permanent ring-fenced fund. Given the current political climate in Parliament and the consistent debates over the budget deficit we're facing as a country, how optimistic are you that lawmakers will walk the talk and prioritize funding and a dedicated human rights reparations kitty? Briefly.
Jesse, that's a very important question. The structural change must come. We've seen it even today. You know, we are seeing another panel, the Professor Makao Mutua panel coming in. Let us be very clear that any process outside the court process is null and void. We are fully participating in this because the courts ordered that the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights take charge of this issue. So we must make sure we have proper structures. Whatever laws we put into place, whatever policies that come in, if they are not anchored in structures that are discussed and agreed by stakeholders, they will not be able to deliver justice for these families. So let us stick to what the courts ordered. Let us make sure this process is fully led and totally implemented by the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights. Any funds that will be disbursed must go through the normal processes of the commission. They should not go to any other institution, any other ministry, or any other panel.
Okay, as we finalize, Hussein, because I beg to ask, what does true justice actually look like for the affected families? Is that proposed monetary damage representing the true financial justice for these aggrieved families? And equally, the Commission asked or called for a guarantee of non-repetition of violations. From where you sit, is this a guarantee under the current administration?
Definitely not. Up to this point in time, Jesse, there is no guarantee of non-repetance. The first step in making sure this does not repeat itself is by ensuring the officers responsible for these killings are identified, charged in a court of law, and were found guilty, then sent to jail. That is the first step that we can take. Secondly, let us recognize that these individuals are heroes in our society. How are you compensating people and you still remember that you call them terrorists? You remember that you call them treasonous criminals. So we must get from the highest office in this land recognition that these individuals are not in any way criminals, but they were heroes who died defending the Constitution and the rights in this country. The third step, we must make sure that as a people, as a country, their sacrifices are never forgotten. We are calling for a monument. We are calling for 25th of June to be declared a national public holiday so that these individuals will be remembered for the rest of our lives. Never in the history of this country have we seen such young lives coming out to defend their nation, to call for justice as we saw in 2024. So let us remember that that is never forgotten. It is, embedded in our history so that we can keep remembering the sacrifices that they made.
Well, thank you so much, Hussein Khalid, joining us from Mombasa County. We hope for proper progress in this particular issue. Transparency and accountability should be the order of the day, and not just compensation, because we can't compensate while creating more victims. So an end to the atrocities that have been meted out against Kenyans. Thank you so much, Khalid. He's the CEO, the executive director, rather, of Vocal Africa and a prominent human rights activist. We'll be following up on the developments on this particular story so we can keep our viewers updated on what exactly transpires. We now want to take a short break right here on KTN Prime. Do stay with us. A lot more in terms of stories making headlines coming your way after this commercial break. Keep it right here.